Recording in progress.
Yeah, this room is best for but thank you all for being here. I'm Chairman Brian Fry. Today is the March 27th Metropolitan Area Planning Commission meeting. If you were here for a different meeting, you're in the wrong room. So last 2 weeks ago, our meeting almost went until 5 o'clock. We're going to try and not do that today. So let's get this going. Opening announcements.
Looks like Ty Ben's on her way to get that going.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and planning department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
Okay. Item 1.2 is a roll call of members present. Mr. Wadle?
Yes, sir. Fry,
Present.
Mater,
Present.
McKay,
Present.
Dool is absent. Bill Johnson,
Present.
Mr. High is absent. Nix is absent. Klontz? Warren,
Present.
Joe Johnson is absent. Miles? Zembleman? Aldridge?
Here.
Williams Bay? Sir, I show 1, 2, 3, 4 members are absent and 10 members are present.
Thank you, sir. Next item is the approval of the prior MAPC meeting minutes from March 13th. I show that Blick, Klontz, and Bill Johnson were absent.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Miles with a second by Commissioner McKay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 1.4 is determination of MAPC consent items. This is where we will go through all of the items on the agenda to hear which ones we might be able to approve on consent. So first is subdivision committee recommendations, items 2.1, subdivision 2024-61. This was deferred from March 13th, final plat for Barnhart Lake, East 101st Street North and North 63rd Street East. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 2.1 to consent. Item 2.2, subdivision 24-50, final plat for Oak Tree, South 54 Highway and South 151st Street West. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 2.2 to consent.
Move to approve items 2.1 and 2.2.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Miles and a second by Commissioner Williams Bay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll review the vacation items. Item 3.1, vacation 2025-6. This is for South Dodge Avenue and West 50th Street South. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 3.1 to consent. Item 3.2 is vacation 2025-7. Roughly northwest corner of East 77th Street North and North Hydraulic Avenue. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 3.2 to consent. Item 3.3, vacation 2025-8. This is roughly 93rd Street North and Oliver Street North. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 3.3 to consent.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 on consent.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Aldrich with a second by Commissioner Zembleman. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go through the public hearing items. 4.1, we will hear because staff is recommending denial. 4.2 is a conditional 2025-34 for parking zoned SF5 at 119th Street West and West Central Avenue. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.2 to consent. Item 4.3 was deferred from, we're deferring that to April 10th, so we will not be hearing that case. Item 4.4, conditional use 2025-39 for an accessory apartment, South Elizabeth Avenue and West 31st Street South. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.4 to consent. Item 4.5 was deferred from March 13th, CUP 2025-6. This is for self-storage warehouse, roughly West Taft Avenue and South Ridge Road. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case?
Yes.
We do? Okay, is the applicant agent here for this case? Okay, so you want to hear this case?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll hear case 4.5. Case 4.6 was a zoning request 2025-4 with the CUP 2025-8. This is roughly West Kellogg Drive and South Tracy Street. I'm assuming that's why the media is here, but any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? We will hear case 4.6. Is the applicant agent here for this case? All right, that's why you're wearing the suit today. I get it. I thought you had court or something. All right, agenda item 4.7, which is zone 2025-5 from two-family residential to neighborhood retail, West 11th Street North and North Waco Avenue. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.7 to consent. And last case is 4.8, zone 2025-6 with conditional 2025-40. This is for a hotel entertainment establishment, North Mays Road and West 21st Street North. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Jay, are you not raising your hand? Okay. So we will move item 4.8 to consent. So keeping track, I've got 4.2, 4.4, 4.7, and 4.8.
So I move to approve item 4.2, 4.4, 4.7, and 4.8.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Miles with a second by Commissioner Williams Bay. We're in agreement on the items for consent. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
And just to be clear, on the motion, that is subject to all the staff recommendations, correct?
Subject to all the staff recommendations
And conditions.
and conditions.
Right. And you're fine with that on the second, Commissioner Williams Bay? Okay.
Could we
All in-
take the vote just one more time? I apologize.
So I'll cast the vote, call for vote one more time. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. So now we go back and our first case is 4.1 and I believe that's Brad. So
Yes, sir. Thank you. Brad Etherly, MAPD. We are discussing Zone 2024-00059, which was referred back to the MAPC from the Board of County Commissioners. For this request, the applicant is requesting a zone change to permit use of the site for warehouse self-service storage. The applicant's current and revised request is to rezone the property to OW Office Warehouse, subject to a revised protective overlay, number 446. The 0.92 acre property is generally located on the northeast corner of West 53rd Street North and North Gow Avenue. And it is currently vacant, and the prior structures that were on the property were demolished within the last 4 months or so. As part of the zone change request, the applicant is requesting to have a PO placed on the property. The text of the requested PO number 446 is attached to the report that you have in front of you. The requested PO includes 13 items. Some of these items are conditions that would apply to the property from the UZC without the PO. Other items are more restrictive, including the following: noise restrictions, limiting land uses to only warehouse, self-service storage, and those allowed in the SF20 district, and paving of all internal circulation drives, and then also requiring landscaping per the City of Wichita Landscape Code. Just to kind of give a little bit of timeline of events, on December 2nd, 2024, the applicant did submit an application for a zone change from SF5 or SF20 to GC, General Commercial District, subject to a protective overlay. On January 9th, 2025, the MAPC held a public hearing for this application, and the MAPC recommended denial of the request by a 7-5 vote, with the following supporting findings: that permitting of the use of warehouse self-service storage would negatively impact surrounding residential uses and introduce a commercial use within a primarily residential area, and that the zone change could have possible negative effects to the public welfare, including the effects of future development in neighboring properties. No members of the public spoke at that public hearing. Citizens Advisory Board 4 chose to not hear the request, so therefore there was no recommendation made. And then on January 23rd, 25, the protest period ended. There were no protests received for this case. On February 19th, 2025, the Board of County Commissioners reviewed the request and voted to send the application back to the MAPC for more consideration. The BOCC asked specifically the applicant's agent to try to bring a more residential design to the MAPC to better complement the surrounding residential neighborhood. And one commissioner requested information on prior zoning cases involving storage uses. Following the February 19th BOCC meeting, the agent for the applicant informed staff that the applicant wanted to change the zoning request from GC to OW. The applicant indicated that this change was being made because the property located directly across West 53rd Street North is zoned OW, and the OW district permits warehouse self-service storage. The agent also provided feedback to staff that his clients were not willing to alter the request to include a neighborhood-type storage facility. The agent also indicated that the financial implications of this would add over $150,000 in estimated costs for the business. The agent did provide a revised possible PO that is discussed in the staff report. Warehouse self-service storage facilities are not subject to supplementary use regulations of the UZC if they are located in the OW district. However, those regulations would apply in the GO district or LC limited commercial district. Should the zone change request be approved, there would be changes to development standards, which are listed in the table in the staff report. Although unincorporated Sedgwick County does not have any landscaping requirements, the revised proposed PO includes the same landscape buffer requirements found in the City of Wichita Landscape Code. Should the zone change request be approved, the applicant would be subject to the screening requirements set forth in the UZC, which requires a 6 to 8 foot solid screening fence for commercially zoned properties adjacent to residential zoning. So the applicant in this case would be required to screen on the north, west, and east property lines. Compatibility, setback, and height standards would apply to the site since it abuts the SF20 district on all property lines other than the south line that abuts West 53rd Street North. At the February 19th, 2025 Board of County Commissioners meeting, the request for more information on prior zoning cases involving storage uses was asked for. That review is added as an attachment to the report. Property to the north and east is one parcel. It's zoned SF20 and was developed with a commercial, vacant commercial building. I think it's since been torn down. Property to the west across North Gow Avenue is zoned SF20 and is developed with agricultural uses. Property to the south across West 53rd Street North is zoned OW with protective overlay number 116 and is developed with a farming ranch land. PO number 116 does permit the use of warehouse self-service storage. Since this is the second time we've heard this case, I'll skip over the case history and the public services, but I'll go straight to the plans and policies. The requested zone change is in partial conformance with the future growth concept map for the community investment plan. The map identifies the area appropriate for new residential. The plan defines new residential as areas of land that likely will be developed or redeveloped by 2035, with uses predominantly found in the residential category. Pockets of major institutional and commercial uses likely will be developed within this area as well, based upon market-driven location factors. In certain areas, especially those in proximity to existing industrial uses, highways, rail lines, and airports, pockets of industrial uses likely will be developed. The proposed revised PO number 446 is designed to mitigate any potential negative impacts to the neighboring properties. A zoning classification of OW or more intensive is typically reserved for higher intensity commercial corridors. Though there is commercial development at the intersection of North Meridian Avenue and West 53rd Street, the proposed commercial development is in the middle of a residential area. And then as far as the land use compatibility guidelines, it is not in conformance under the heading Land Use Compatibility. Guideline 1A states that higher intensity development should be discouraged from locating in areas of existing lower intensity development, particularly established low density residential areas. Also under the development pattern heading, Guideline 3D states that low density residential uses should be buffered from commercial and industrial areas by open space, water bodies, changes in topography, or major barriers such as arterial streets or highways. Neither of these guidelines are being followed by the request to allow warehouse self-service storage as a use on the subject property. So based on all of that, staff does recommend that the request be denied based off of the golden factors. I will say that there have been no public comment throughout this whole request. And at the BOCC, I do have one other thing to mention. I believe Commissioner Meitzner asked for a number of residential dwellings, specifically in between Walmart. I don't know if we can go to the aerial map, or this is the aerial. Can we go to like a zoning map? Yeah, so this basically, the area that's zoned LC, limited commercial, he asked for specific numbers of residential dwellings in this area. And there's a total of 72, with 36 of those being duplexes and at least 39 single-family homes within that vicinity of the subject property. So we can run through the site pics real quick. There shouldn't be too many. This is looking north into the site from West 53rd. Next picture. Looking north away from the site, down Gow. Next picture. This is looking east away from the site from Gow. Next picture. Looking south away from the site across West 53rd. Next picture. This is looking west away from the site across Gow. Next picture. And that's it. With that, I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the presentation. So I see from the other pictures you've had, that building that's in the aerial is no longer there.
I can't say that for certain. I may have been thinking about what this property is. The property that we're talking about, the structure is gone.
Okay.
The one that you see to the east may still be there.
Yeah, that's still there,
It's
but the
been
one
cleaned
that's,
up, but it may still be there.
but the one that's in the outline here, that used to be an old motel.
Hotel, motel, yeah.
And it
it's
must
gone.
have been it was non-conforming, because if it was zoned SF 20, would a motel been allowed in SF 20?
My guess is it was there
Non-conforming?
before zoning was,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay. I just want to make sure that it's not there any longer. So,
it is not there, correct.
any other questions from Commissioner Aldrich?
Yep, Brad, you mentioned 72 homes. Is that a total over there of the dwellings that's been built between a Walmart and this property? Or is it 72 plus 39 single family?
No, that's 72 is a total.
Okay, because I know the question that, or the statement that Commissioner Meister made was that there wasn't a significant amount of homes built, and there has been, and matter of fact, in the last year and a half over there. And that's quite a bit of housing right there. The other thing, the only concern that I have, especially with the future growth plan along 53rd Street, is that I know that the owners of the property on the south side of 53rd, they're looking at developing, or their vision, if you will, would be more in line with what's going on with Mays. And they're already starting to do a lot. We're starting to see a lot of that directly across from Walmart in the corner right there at 53rd Meridian.
Sure, if we can go, I'm sorry.
And, and also I noticed yesterday that there was 2 for sale signs on this half-acre lot that we're talking about. So I don't know if that's got any bearing on this or not, but I'm just curious why
Sure, as far as the for sale signs, I don't see any bearing on this. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. If we can go back to the zoning map, I'll kind of indicate where I think you're talking about this section right here where it's zoned OW.
Yeah, and that was done prior to 2005 by the one of the owners who's since passed.
Sure.
But I know that their intention, and I know that the applicant is going to say that they can do a self-storage units right there, right now, if they wanted to. That is not the intent for that, because it would be against what the developers or what the future development for that area is.
And all I'll say is that we can't necessarily go by what the intent is of the owner. It is what it is now, and that's with the PO that does allow warehouse self-service storage and is zoned OW. So I understand your remarks. And
Right, I understand that, but then again, we have this thing called the comprehensive plan too. That's also talking about the intent of future
certainly.
growth and uses over there. So, and then the other concern that I have, I know that has been mentioned several times, that they're looking into the landscaping per Wichita, the city of Wichita standards. Well, this is in the county. They don't have landscaping standards right there. So as a result, you can say all day long that you're going to do that, but there's no enforcement trigger there. So if they don't do that, hey, we're in the county, we don't have to because it's not there. So they can say that all day long that they're going to do buffers and landscaping. But again, there's no enforcement criteria on the back end of that.
Sure, and I'll have senior leadership back me up if I'm wrong in this, but I believe that the PO is enforceable, and they're requesting to have that that restrictive landscaping portion in there. So if they do not, that could be enforceable.
But how can that be enforceable if the county itself doesn't have any landscaping?
So because instead of spelling out every single detail of landscaping they have to provide, it was easier for them to reference the Wichita Landscape Code. And by putting it in the PO, it becomes zoning enforceable. So if they do not abide by the requirements of landscaping per the PO, which references the Wichita Landscape Code, it is a zoning infraction.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, we'll ask the applicant agent come forward and give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 10 minutes. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman, Planning Commission. My name's Jay Cook, Boffman Company, 315 South Ellis Avenue here in Wichita. Normally in a case like this that you vote on, if it goes before the Board of County Commissioners, I might try to change their mind with some insight that I have on the golden rules and just let it be. But this one, I specifically requested from the Board of County Commissioners that it be brought back to the Planning Commission because there wasn't a lot of consensus. We had a 6-6 vote in favor, which failed because it was a tie, and then a 7-5 vote for denial. In favor of approval, sorry, and then a 7-5 vote for denial. So I was trying to get a chance to come back and maybe talk to you a little bit more and possibly change that around a little bit. And I've really struggled with this case, I'm going to be honest with you, on how to emphasize precedence and the importance of equal rights for separate neighbors. I thought about talking about market-driven factors of a self-storage unit close to residential because it's needed. I thought about the need of storage units around the city. Before this meeting, I called 10 storage units here in Wichita, just Googled storage units and called them. 4 of them were on a wait list. So while we have a lot of storage units, it seems they still need more. I thought about talking about my client who's a combat vet, maybe try to get your sensible, maybe hit you on the emotional side. And then I thought about talking about the specific neighborhood that was brought up at the last meeting and the fact that there's only 15 developed lots in that 35 lot area, which is less than 50%. And I'm including the former gentleman's club whenever I say 15 that are developed. But none of that really matters because that's not what you base your decisions on. Your decisions are based on the golden rules. So then I was kind of stuck. But it actually hit me that I don't have to convince you that this is an appropriate use for this parcel. And the reason why I don't is because you've already made that decision. You've already decided that this area is okay for an office warehouse self-storage. And you've done that by approving this one right here. What we're asking for in our piece of property is exactly the same. PO almost, the protective overlay is almost identical to what was approved right here. Now, we can't make decisions based off intent because intent doesn't matter. We base the decisions off of what's already been decided and the plans that are in place. The individual that owns this property does not have to change anything, and they were approved to do exactly what I'm asking to do, surrounded by SF20 with single family to the south with houses worth $1 million, $750,000 houses to the south that would be looking directly at a storage unit. And no matter what you say about what it could be, what it is for now is what we're focused on. This institution, out this door, over into the planning department, decided that for this piece of property, they're going to recommend approval for what they're asking. This body, 20 years ago, some of you may have been on it, some of you may not, I don't know, decided that this property should be allowed office warehouse with self-storage. So what we're asking for, not unheard of, not unprecedented, you've already approved it. You've already approved it for this area with the same conditions that were there 20 years ago. A piece of property surrounded by SF20 with a single-family neighborhood to the south within viewing distance that is required to do the same landscaping as Philip explained because they're in the city, they annexed into the city. We put that in there as a way to be even more equal to that. The review criteria for zone changes hasn't changed since 1978. So since almost 50 years ago, when golden rules were created by the golden factors through the Kansas Supreme Court, you've been making decisions off of the same criteria since then. So you've already made this decision. I'm here talking to you because I feel like you should make the same decision on something you've already decided once. And speaking of the zone change, I cannot express enough, and Brad did a good job of doing the staff report. While this is technically a zone change to office warehouse, we're not asking for every use in office warehouse. We're asking for one single use that it can only be, cannot be anything else except for self-storage. It could also be, if decided on later, sold or built on as a SF20 use, but I'm not asking for office warehouse. I'm asking for one use. It's kind of a nuance of the UZC, a nuance of the zoning code that is allowed and has been done a lot through this. That seemed to be a big talking point with the Board of County Commissioners was you're asking for general commercial surrounded by SF20. So we changed it to office warehouse, but want to emphasize this is for one use, not for all of them. So you decided on January 9th that this would negatively impact surrounding residential uses and introduce a commercial use within a primary residential area. You didn't decide that for this area. You decided that there would be negative impacts on the public welfare, including effects of future development on neighboring properties. I'm not sure which neighboring properties you're talking about, but you didn't consider that for this lot. I'm pretty passionate about this because I feel like the small man is being trampled over by the machine here that has already approved this use for his neighbor, who is a well-known real estate agent and developer who developed the moorings down here. Also knowing that individuals in this room may live in the moorings and may have a distinct reason why they don't want this there. I would like to point out that there were no protests, there were no public comments, there were no neighbors who had an issue with this. I would never disparage a neighborhood, but this is not necessarily one of your nicer Wichita neighborhoods. Going through the golden rules, number 3 and number 5 are the ones that were stated that are not in favor of our request. Number 3 is extent to which removal of restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby neighbors. Staff anticipates that permitting the use of this would negatively impact surrounding areas. That anticipation obviously wasn't a key factor when deciding on this case. And number 5, approval of this request could provide an opportunity for infill development, which is what the zoning code talks about a lot in the comprehensive plan, which is generally considered a gain. However, any gain must be considered in light of positive negative impacts to the public welfare, including future development on neighboring properties. And again, that obviously didn't matter for our case right here. Regarding the PO, what I would like to see is number 9 of the protective overlay that has been added. That says all structures have architectural character similar to nearby residential dwellings with hip and gable roofs, etc., be taken out. And my reason for that is if you go a half-mile east on Meridian and 53rd, you have a conditional use for self-storage where number 7 says self-service storage warehouse buildings shall be consistent and shall be compatible with surrounding residential development. I'm bringing that up, and I bet you can guess why. That building is 100% metal right beside of a neighborhood. In summation, I'm asking for equal property rights for my client, who literally sits 70 feet from the use that he wants to do as it is used right now. I'm asking that you and that this institution and this body vote to approve what you've already approved for the adjacent neighbor. And I'm asking for some consistency with precedent and the opportunity for my client to do infill development and to start a small business that he can be proud of and that he could maybe one day leave to his family and have some type of pride in what he's done. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Questions from the commission? Mr. Williams Bay.
Yes, sir. The property to the south that you're referring to, are there architectural controls on that property?
No, they're not.
Any other questions for the applicant agent? Okay, seeing none, stand by. Mr. Cook?
Thank you.
Now we'll open up for public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment on this case? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Aldrich.
Yeah, I just, like to say that additional to my concerns on this, besides, staff has clearly shown that this is not compatible with a comprehensive plan. A few months back, right next to the property where this is located, we denied a vehicle storage there. What I'm afraid of is that if this is approved, then the next thing we're immediately going to see in a short period of time is that rest of that property is going to wind up requesting the same thing for self-storage units. This is only a half acre. Well, actually, it's a little less than a half acre. And I know the agent for the applicant, said a few things I think is a little bit on the misleading side, that this body approved the office warehouse just south of that. But that was, done or zoned 25 plus years ago. And again, knowing, what the future intent for development is going to be along that corridor right there, and we've already seen it. So it's a little more than just that intent right there. I think that this is totally out of line for what the future is going to lay right there, and I just don't think it's a good fit. Staff doesn't think it's a good fit. And I just I know there's needs to be developed over there, especially on that north side, but I just don't feel that this is the right fit to have a storage units in that area. Therefore, I would like to make a motion that we deny based on staff recommendations and comments.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before I call for a vote, I just want to say to Mr. Cook and to the applicant, I appreciate your impassioned case, your argument. Appreciate the work that you've done to clean up that corner. It's a vast improvement from what it had been. And the comments that Commissioner Aldrich has made, I concur. It's a tough decision, but that neighborhood is certainly a lot more residential than it ever intended to be, probably when that first office self-storage was approved. Times have changed, and as we're seeing with the residential development in the area. So again, I appreciate all the work that's been done so far, but I cannot support the request for the zoning. Is there another comment? Commissioner Bill Johnson.
I've probably been coming down 53rd Street for 60 years. That old motel, I don't remember if it was ever open 60 years ago. And that old area it was run down considerably. And I don't like to put people's residence down, but you go north of this, I wouldn't live there. I think where the zoning's the same across the street, I don't quite understand where this thing would probably end up having a wall around it, the landscaping. And so I'm not in support of a denial.
Commissioner Mader.
Zoning this one lot in the middle of that street to a zoning that is completely different to everything east of it, west of it, north of it. This might be a good use, but it could also just be a spot use that is there and affects everyone around it. and limits what development could happen. I think all that's going to be torn down on that street. I think all of it's going to be changed. I think dropping this office warehouse in the middle of it would impede that.
Seeing no more comments, we have a motion to deny by Commissioner Aldrich with a second by Commissioner Mader. All in favor of denial, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
No.
So if I could just show hands of the nays. We had Commissioner Bill Johnson and Commissioner Warren. All the rest were affirmative of denial, correct? Okay. Thank you. Next item is 4.5, is that correct? Is that what you all have? Okay. This would be the Dugan Center CUP amendment, South Ridge Road and West Taft. So Brad, you're back up.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Once again, Brad Otherly, MAPD. This time we are discussing case CUP 2025-00006. For this request, the applicant is requesting a minor amendment to the Dugan Center CUP DP 151. The subject site is 1.63 acres in size, is zoned GC General Commercial, and is generally located on the south side of West Taft Avenue and within 1/4 mile of east of South Ridge Road. The applicant is requesting two things: to permit warehouse self-service storage as a permitted use on proposed parcel 3D, subject to supplementary use regulations section 3D6Y with a waiver of regulation number 17, and to alter architectural controls for proposed parcel 3D that are set forth in the general provisions for parcel 3A. The applicant is requesting to create a new parcel, which is parcel 3D, if we can go to that slide, by splitting off a portion of the current parcel 3A. So you can see here that currently this is all parcel 3A, and they are requesting to remove this section and make it parcel 3D. Parcel 3A is permitted all uses allowed in the GC district, excluding several uses that are listed in the staff report. I won't go through all of those. The applicant is requesting to allow warehouse self-service storage as a permitted use on the proposed parcel 3D, while also altering the architectural controls set forth in those general provisions. A portion of parcel 3A is currently developed with 2 buildings with multiple suites. A portion of the undeveloped area would comprise the proposed new parcel 3D. Warehouse self-service storage is not subject to supplementary use regulations when located in the GC district. However, the applicant is proposing the site be subject to those regulations according to the UZC. However, they are requesting to waive regulation number 17, which requires a resident manager on the site and responsible for maintaining the operation of the facility. The existing architectural controls for parcel 3A state that all buildings on the parcel shall share uniform architectural character, color, texture, and the same predominant exterior building material. Building walls and roof must have predominantly earth tone colors with vivid colors limited to incidental accent, and metal shall not be used as a predominant exterior building material on the north facades and the east facade of the easternmost building, and on the western facade of the westernmost building. Of course, that applies to this building right here, which has already been developed. The applicant is proposing metal to be allowed as a predominant building material, with at least 30% of the facade being masonry or other similar building materials on all facades for the proposed parcel 3D. I will state that I think that the agent will be updating that somewhat, so stay tuned for that. Staff is recommending this request be denied because this is an existing requirement for which current buildings have been built when constructed across the street from residential uses. Staff is recommending that the north and easternmost facades of the building fronting West Taft Avenue adhere to the architectural controls as stated for parcel 3A. This would prohibit any metal being used on the north-facing facade, along West Taft Avenue. It would also prohibit metal being used on the easternmost facade of the parcel. This would maintain the existing architectural character and appearance along West Taft Avenue across from residential use. However, any interior-facing facade would be allowed to use metal as a building material, subject to that 30% masonry requirement as proposed by the applicant. The existing screening requirement for parcel 3A requires a screening wall along West Taft Avenue if the service area or rear of any building is along the street frontage. The applicant intends to have the rear of the proposed storage buildings front West Taft Avenue, so all overhead doors are internal to the site. Therefore, the applicant is proposing that a screening wall not be required on the proposed parcel, regardless of the building's orientation. Staff is actually comfortable recommending that a screening wall not be required so long as the landscape buffer that has been applied to the current developed portion of parcel 3A along West Taft Avenue is mirrored on the proposed parcel 3D. Parcel 3A does have landscaping along West Taft Avenue with evergreen trees at 1.5 times the required amount per the Wichita Landscape Code. In lieu of a screening wall, staff recommends that the landscape requirement of 1 evergreen tree per 30 linear feet be adhered to on parcel 3D as well. As far as other provisions, landscaping otherwise is not referenced except for the 10-foot landscape strip along the north line of West Taft Avenue, which we've already spoken about. It does include parking lot shall require a minimum of 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees for every 20 parking spaces. It talks about signage being according to the Wichita Sign Code with several stipulations, and that parking is not referenced in the CUP, so staff would say that parking would be in accordance with Section 4 of the UZC. Staff recommends that each of these standards also be applied to parcel 3D. Properties to the north, if we can go to the zoning map, across West Taft Avenue are zoned SF5, single-family residential district, and are developed with single-family dwellings. Property to the east is zoned GC, is within the same CUP, DP 151, and is developed with general retail. Property to the south is also GC and within DP 151 and is developed with a large strip mall. And property to the west is also within DP 151 and is developed with general retail. A little bit of case history. In 1993, the property was platted as the Dugan Center Second Edition. In 1986, the Dugan Center CUP DP 151 was approved. In 1992, Parcel 3A was created from Parcel 3 as an adjustment. And in 2003, an amendment to Parcel 3A to increase maximum building coverage, gross floor area, maximum number of buildings, and reduce the setback on Taft Avenue from 100 feet to 35 feet, and change permitted uses was approved with conditions. And those are all listed in the staff report. In 2003, an administrative adjustment was granted that reduced the width of the landscape buffer along West Taft Avenue from 20 feet to 10 feet. And in 2006, an administrative adjustment was not granted that would have allowed 2 additional ground signs for Parcel 3A. And then also in 2006, an amendment to Parcel 3A to allow 3 monument-style signs was denied. The subject site has access to West Taft Avenue, which is a paved 4-lane collector road with sidewalk on the south side. The Wichita Transit provides regular bus service to the area on West Taft Avenue within 270 feet to the west and within 500 feet to the east. Municipal water and sewer is available for the site. If we can go to the future growth map. The requested zone change is in conformance with the community investment plan. The proposed amendment is in conformance with the Wichita future growth map. The map identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for commercial. The use of warehouse self-service storage should be an appropriate use on the subject site. Supplementary use regulations and the conditions of approval are designed to mitigate any detrimental effect to neighboring properties, and the removal of architectural controls could be perceived as detrimental to the overall aesthetic of the CUP development. As far as locational guidelines, the request is in conformance with those. Under the development pattern title, guideline number 2A states that encourage infill development that maximizes public investment in existing and planned infrastructure and services. The proposed use would bring development to a parcel that has been underutilized for decades. And under the design title, guideline 1D states that except in mixed-use development areas, non-residential uses should provide appropriate screening and buffering from residential uses. And staff believes that the recommended landscaping at 1.5 times the required amount will provide adequate screening to those residential uses to the north. The requested zone change is also in conformance with the goals of the Wichita Places for People Plan. Strategy 6 states to encourage infill and redevelopment that is contextual to the environment in which it is occurring. A portion of parcel 3A has been developed, however, a significant portion remains undeveloped. That portion is proposed to become parcel 3D and would fulfill strategy 6 of the plan. We can go to site pictures. So this is looking east into the proposed parcel 3D. Next picture. This is looking south into the site across from West Taft. Next picture. This is looking east away from the site. Next picture. This is looking north away from the site. Next picture. This is looking south away from the site to the strip mall to the south. Next picture. This is another picture looking south. It's a very wide property. Next picture. This is looking west to the structures that are already developed on that parcel 3A. I don't know if there's another picture. Looks like that's it. So staff does recommend approval to the amendment, as well as the waiver of supplementary use regulations, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, with one that I would like to point out, that metal shall not be used as a facade material on the building's north facade or the easternmost facing facade on the parcel, and that the landscaping be at 1.5 times the required amount with specifically evergreen trees. These are based on the golden factors, and I will state also that since the writing of this report, we have received 2 emails from concerned citizens opposing the request, and those have been placed in front of you on your tables. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Brad. Just to be clear, the two buildings that are see right now on this on the overhead image, those are all part of 3A, and we're creating a new parcel 3D, which is the vacant lot.
Yeah,
And the
correct.
architectural control removal would only be on the vacant lot parcel.
On the
So no
proposed
changes
parcel
would be
3D.
made to the existing buildings that are on 3A.
Correct. It's just to the proposed parcel 3D.
Okay. And this CUP was put in place in 1986?
I believe so.
Okay. And
Said a lot of words. I
Are
don't
these
remember.
are these the same owners that had it in 1986 when it was CUP?
That I do not know.
Okay, we can ask the applicant. So, any other questions for staff? Commissioner Aldrich?
Yeah, Brad, mine's got to do with the landscaping. Again, a few meetings back, we had a discussion about showing in a staff report reference to our current drought situation, about suspending the landscaping portion of that, but also with the understanding that once the drought restrictions have been lifted, that the applicant would be required to meet the landscaping standards. I just want to make sure that's also going to apply to here. I didn't see that in staff report.
That's correct. I don't think that it's something that we include in every staff report. It's kind of a policy of the city at this point with the drought restrictions.
Okay, I just thought that we were going to
We do have a.
to add that in there.
Yes, sir. My apologies. We did commit that we were going to do that, and it looks like this one slipped by. So we'll make note of that and make sure we get that in future staff reports.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you, Brad. Ask the applicant agent to come forward. Please give us your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 10 minutes. And welcome back.
Thank you. Again, Jay Cook, Boffman Company, 315 South Ellis Avenue. The reason why I wanted to hear this is not because I'm a glutton for punishment, but it is, I probably should do a better job speaking with Brad as the staffer on this through the process, but when you get the staff report, there might be some things that you want to have considered. So I brought a site plan that I'd like to hand out to you all with how we would like K to be worded. It's a little bit different, keeps some of the verbiage that is in there, but we do want to do self-storage, which may be a business I need to get into, apparently, because that's what I'm arguing most of the time. But anyways, if you look at the site plan, the back of a building is going to be facing Taft. There will be no garage doors. So what we're trying to do to maybe meet in the middle is offer a little bit more than 50% of that area as masonry or like material, but also allow a bit of metal at the top as the Dollar General to the east, and the metal that's on the east side of this far east building on the 3A. I don't have, obviously I agree with staff that they agree, but I wanted to see if we couldn't work on this verbiage a little bit for our development. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them for you.
All right, Jay, are you comfortable with item L from the staff recommended?
Yeah, landscaping is definitely something that we were wanting to emphasize as we try to take a little bit of the restrictions off of the facade. We can help neighbors to the north by adding a little bit of a more aesthetic view with trees and the like.
And same with item 6C, because staff had an adjustment on that one also.
Yes.
Okay. So the only change that you're asking for as relates to the staff recommended text is item K.
That is correct, sir.
Any commissioners have any questions on it? Commissioner Mader.
Maybe I'm just missing something here. Under the requirements for this to go, we need to have a resident manager. I don't see such a thing, or is that not pertain to this? That's
so
been removed, or?
That's what Brad was speaking about as one of the regulations, number 17, to remove that.
Yeah.
That's becoming kind of an obsolete practice in self-storage, so it wouldn't be there.
I just missed that. Sorry, I wasn't listening, Brad.
Any other questions for the applicant, agent? Seeing none, stand by. Thank you, Jay. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this item? Once, going twice. Bring it back to the board. Commissioner McKay.
Is the staff all right with this change?
I was going to ask you my question as well.
You know, it's kind of a difficult thing to react to these when you get them right during the meeting, right after the staff have done the presentation. At this point, I would say no. Our recommendation is as stands in the staff report.
Upon studying it, would you deal with the applicant if it might change? Are you trying to say, I know your jerk reaction right now is, let's don't change it, but they come back and you work it out?
Yeah, if this item gets deferred, we're open to discussing it. But to me, it appears that the difference is that they're seeking to modify the conditions so that about 50% of the building facade on the north side could be metal. And at this point, what we're recommending to you, the reason why we're recommending it not allow that metal exterior is because that's consistent with what's been done, what exists in the CUP today. That's consistent with what's been developed there so far. And so for consistency's sake, that's why we're recommending that we stick with what's already in the CUP to that effect.
Any other discussion, comments? Commissioner Mader?
Trying to decide when to ask a question or make a motion.
Did you have a follow-up, Commissioner McKay?
Well, it's either or, as far as I'm concerned with the applicant. So, he either lives with what the staff said or what he wants to say. I'd like to hear I heard what the staff said. I'd like to know what applicant's saying.
Yeah. We'll bring you back up here, Jay. Did you have a follow-up question?
I think that's a great motion.
Well, let's see if Jay has anything he wants to add to Commissioner McKay's comments and staff comments.
It's a little bit tricky. Obviously, we want to adhere to what staff says, and we don't want to bring something up from the pulpit. I know that's frowned upon. Will you go to the site pictures? Is that possible? It's what I was trying to express to the site picture looking east, but we'll obviously go with whatever the wish is of the commission. But we definitely wanted to offer. Maybe go over another one. We're trying to show that the top half of this Dollar General is metal. So, I mean, there is metal in here. And so what we're asking is just that we be allowed to do maybe the top portion metal and the bottom being masonry. And I apologize that so this bit right here is metal. This is kind of what we were looking at. I hate to spring it on it like that, but with the staff report coming out so quick to the meeting, they're not so quick, but I don't have a lot of time to get in alternate language, so we'll be agreeable to what we can get. But this is why that we wanted to change that language.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant agent? Thank you, Jay.
Thanks.
So where are we at?
I'd like to move we approve per staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Aldrich?
I've got a quick question with that also. Do we have to include the waiver on that?
It's included in the recommendation. Yeah, that is part of the staff recommendation, the conditions with the waiver. That is part of your motion as well, Commissioner Mader, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that, cast a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Who is the second?
Commissioner McKay. All right, next item is 4.6. And who do we have for this? This is Brad again. It's the Brad show. You should have your own paparazzi, not me.
He does.
Sorry about that. I was getting my papers straight. I would break the cameras if they were following me, so. Now we are discussing CUP 2025-0008 and Zone 2025-00004. Once again, Brad Etherly with MAPD. For this case, the applicants are requesting two items. First of which is a major amendment to Town West Square, CUP DP 71, to allow several additional uses to parcels 1, 10, and 11, and to rezone parcels 1, 10, and 11 from LC Limited Commercial District to LI Limited Industrial District. The subject site is 47.35 acres in size, is zoned LC, and is generally located north of West Kellogg Drive and west of South Tracy Street. The applicants are requesting the zone change from LC to LI for redevelopment of the subject site with a manufacturing emphasis on parcels 1, 10, and 11. The amendment to CUPDP 71 would only affect the permitted uses on those parcels. The applicants are not proposing to change any of the development standards established by the DP. Therefore, development standards such as maximum building coverage, gross floor area ratio, maximum height, maximum number of buildings, and setbacks would not change if the requests are approved. If we can go to the parcel exhibit that shows each one of the parcels. Yes, this one right here. So this kind of better clarifies each one of the parcels that we're discussing, blue in parcel 1, purple in parcel 11, and the red in parcel 10. So the proposed permitted uses for these parcels include freight terminal, manufacturing, limited and general, research services, storage outdoor, subject to Section 3D6 double D. Those are the supplementary use regulations. Vehicle storage yard, warehousing, welding shop, wholesale or business services. And the definitions of these are provided as an attachment to the report in front of you. Staff recommends limiting the freight terminals to the existing loading docks within parcels 1, 10, and 11. And then staff also recommends that outdoor storage and vehicle storage yards on parcels 10 and 11 be limited to the locations 205 feet south of the north property line along West Maple Street. To make it more simple, it would coincide with the south property line of parcel 2. So outdoor storage would basically be allowed on a line going west to east this way in parcels 10 and 11. Staff also recommends that outdoor storage and, I've already said that. Staff is not recommending any location restriction for outdoor storage or vehicle storage yard on parcel 1. Staff recommends that landscaping adhere to the current landscape plan on file. I don't know if we have that as a slide, but if you can maybe pull that up if we do. That was approved in 1979. This would require the applicants to restore any landscaping that is dying, has died, has been removed, or is missing from the approved landscape plans for those parcels in question. This will also serve as effective screening from the outdoor storage and vehicle storage yards on parcels 10 and 11. And the zoning code does state that screening shall be provided on all non-residential development, sufficient to reasonably hide from ground view level all loading docks, trash receptacles, ground level heating, air conditioning and mechanical equipment, freestanding coolers or refrigeration units, outdoor storage, including portable storage containers, outdoor work areas, or similar uses from any residential zoning district or public street right-of-way located within 150 feet of such uses. So the reason I say all of that is because staff is also recommending that the applicants adhere to this code for outdoor storage on parcel 11. So while we ask that it's basically coinciding with this line, that once they get to this SF5 property where the church and school is, that they adhere to that 150-foot distance as well for that portion. Because of the irregular shape of the subject site, some of these properties that abut are going to be general in terms, but if we can go to the zoning map, properties to the north of the overall site across West Maple Street are zoned SF5, single-family residential, NR, neighborhood retail district, and LC, limited commercial. Those are developed with single-family dwellings, strip commercial centers. Properties to the east are zoned SF5, LC within DP 71, LI, which is across South Tracy Street, and GC, general commercial district. These properties are developed with a church and a school, a department store, a print shop, and a bank. Properties to the south are zoned LC, are also within DP 71 and LI, limited industrial, and are developed with a hotel, a credit union, a local union office, training center, and medical services. And then property to the west is zoned LC within DP 71 and is developed as a department store, and then also I-235. Some case history: on May 10th, 1973, a zone change from AA one family to B multiple family was recommended for denial by the MAPC and was withdrawn by the applicant. On May 14th of 1974, a zone change from AA one family to E light industrial was approved by the city council, subject to platting the property. The applicant subsequently withdrew this request and requested a zone change from AA one family to LC limited commercial, which became effective on April 20th, 1978, when the property was also platted as Town West Square Edition. On July 15th, 1975, the Town West Square CUP DP 71 was originally adopted. And on September 11th, 2008, an amendment allowing a tavern and drinking establishment and a nightclub in the city on Parcel 1 was approved by the MAPC. And in 2013, an amendment was approved that permitted temporary outdoor business promotions, temporary outdoor display, but not sales, of motorized vehicles, including car shows, temporary carnivals and circuses, a seasonal nursery, and a farmer's market on several parcels within the CUP. There have been a litany of other amendments and adjustments that have been part of the CUP, but not necessarily pertaining to parcels 1, 10, and 11. As far as public services go, the subject site has access to West Maple Street, South Tracy Street, West Kellogg Drive, South Anna Avenue, and South Westdale Drive. Access to US Highway 54 400 and I-235 is nearby to the subject site via Southwest Street. West Maple Street is a paved 4-lane arterial street with a dedicated center turn lane with sidewalk on the north side. South Tracy Street is a paved 4-lane local street with no sidewalks. West Kellogg Drive at this location is a paved 2-lane local street with no sidewalks. South Anna Avenue is a paved 2-lane local street with no sidewalks. South Westdale Drive is a paved 2-lane local street with no sidewalks. Wichita Transit does provide regular bus service to the area on the northwest corner of the property on West Maple Street, and all services are available to the site. If we can go to the future growth map. The proposed amendment to the CUP is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The future growth concept map identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for commercial and residential employment mix. And then as far as the redevelopment of Town West Mall with an emphasis on manufacturing is an appropriate use for the subject site, considering the size and scope of the existing buildings. And assuming the vast majority of activity will take place inside, the proposed permitted uses to parcels 1, 10, and 11 would seem to be enough of a barrier to mitigate any detrimental effects to surrounding properties. Supplementary use regulations and the replacement of the required landscaping and staff recommended conditions are also designed to mitigate any negative effects to the surrounding properties. The request is also in conformance with the land use compatibility locational guidelines under development pattern. Guideline 1C states that major commercial and employment centers should be located at intersections of arterial streets and along highways and commercial corridors. Obviously, this subject site is bordered by I-235, West Kellogg Drive, and West Maple Street. Also, guideline 2A states to encourage infill development that maximizes public investment in existing and planned infrastructure and services. Guideline 1D states that industrial uses should be located in areas with good access to highways, rail lines, and airports. And then lastly, under the title design, guideline 1D states except in mixed use development areas, non-residential uses should provide appropriate screening and buffering from residential uses, and we believe the adherence to the original landscape plan would cover that. The requested zone change is in conformance with the Wichita Places for People Plan. Strategy 6 states to encourage infill and redevelopment that is contextual to the environment in which it is occurring. LI zoning does exist immediately to the east of the subject site, and given the locational factors near highway infrastructure, staff believes the proposed industrial uses are contextual. We can go to the site pics. There are a lot, so bear with me. This is looking north into the site from the south portion. Next picture. This is also looking north into the site from the south. Next picture. This is one more from the and looking into the north from the south. Next picture. This is looking east into the site from the west. Next picture. Another one east from the west. Next picture. This is looking south from the north. Next picture. This is looking west from the east. Next picture. Now we're looking away, south, away from the site. Next picture. Another one south, away from the site. Next picture. One more south away. Next picture. And the last one looking south away from the site. Next picture. Oh, pardon me, there was one more south away from the site. Next picture. This is looking southwest away from the site. Next picture. West away from the site. Next picture. Northwest away from the site. Next picture. North away from the site. Next picture. Again, north away from the site. Next picture. One more north away from the site. This is specifically looking at the church and the school there in the SF5 district there as well. Next picture. This is looking east away from the site. Next picture. And that's it. Staff does recommend the zone change from LC to LI and the amendment to DP 71 be approved, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. And these are based off of the golden factors. And most surprisingly, no public comments. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Okay, Brett, real quick, and I know you probably don't have this at your fingertips, but I'm getting a report that the owner of parcel 9 was not notified of the zoning change. That's the former Dick's Sporting Goods store. So if we could check on that for me, please.
We'll look into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to that also, I will say that when we were compiling this report, if we can go back to the zoning map, perhaps would be the best. So actually, go back to the aerial, I'm sorry. We were contacted by the local union, the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union. They own this property right here. They also own this property here. They apparently purchased the property after the application was made that includes everything kind of south of this drive. So this parking lot, this is all part of parcel 1. And then it's hard, but there's a strip of parking spaces to the east of the training center that is also in parcel 1. They also purchased that. The applicants who are purchasing the property, not the seller, but the buyers, were aware of that. And we did get the signatures on the application of the local plumbing and pipe fitters union. So they are fine with these amendments and zone change as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
No, and I appreciate it. This is just one of the craziest zoning maps I've seen since I've been on the planning commission. I appreciate the color coding of the different parcels because I think that helps simplify and break it down a little bit better. But yeah, this is very complex from a mapping standpoint. Next question, Commissioner Aldrich.
Yep, Brad, thanks for the presentation. My concerns are along partial 11 and partial 1, where it adjoins the Christ the King addition, especially on the west side and on the south side right there. If this whole development was to be done today, for example, not back in 79, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Wouldn't they be required to put a masonry wall along
Sure, I think
partial
that,
11 and 1?
sure, I think that with it being part of the CUP, if the CUP was approved without screening, then that would be the case. So it would not be required to have screening. And that's the case for this one. There was no screening that was required in this CUP. I think that if it were being done now, we would probably require screening in the CUP, or at least staff would request that. And then the planning commission and the city council could make their decision off of that. But yeah.
Because right now there's a school right there, and the only screening, if you will, is, I believe it's a 3 or 4 foot chain link fence. And there's a few straggler trees that are left. Yeah, and staff report did make mention that those are, dying or diseased, or just it's pretty thin and hasn't been replaced. So that's what my concerns are, is whether or not we could, it would make sense to require a masonry wall along partial 11 and partial 1.
If that's the will of the planning commission, you can make that a part of your motion, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Philip.
So I just wanted to confirm that we identified the owner of the parcel that the Dick's Sporting Goods store was on. The owner is an NRFC Wichita Holdings LLC, and they are on the ownership list. So according to our records, we
Should have received something?
Correct.
Okay. Well, as long as we did that, thank you. And I know that we did. I just want to confirm
Right,
for the
and
record.
legal will back me up, but because it was brought up, there will probably be a motion need to be made to make sure that substantial notification, substantial compliance notification was made.
Okay. I'm sorry, you need me to make a motion that,
Mr. Chair, yes, someone would need to make a motion that,
okay.
based on the information you just heard from
Okay, I
staff.
make a motion that, based on information from staff, all legal notification was dispersed or
Substantially complete.
substantially complete. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Miles. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Abby. Any further questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you, Brad. We'll ask the applicant agent to come forward. Welcome, Trice.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm having a really bad mic issue.
All right. Name and address for the record. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman, Commission. Jay Cook, Boffman Company, 315 South Ellis Avenue, agent on behalf of the applicants. What we're asking for, as Brad said, is just an amendment to the CUP and a zone change to the 3 lots that are in question and on the diagram. I do have the clients here to provide a little more information about what the plan is for those 3 lots. But the general request here is to allow a development company to take the Town West Mall and create a bit of a business park with multiple uses. Our request for the LI is to ensure that we have the most diverse set of uses possible for possible tenants for the business park. I'm kind of going to talk about the zoning aspect of it, or answer questions about the zoning aspect, and then I'll let Mr. Chris Salata with Wichita Maple give you a brief rundown of what's going to take place. So if you have any zoning related questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll bring up Mr. Salata to talk about the plan.
All right, any questions for Mr. Cook? Seeing none, thank you.
Good afternoon, Director, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Chris Salata. I'm a partner with Provider Real Estate Partners. Our address is 600 Superior Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. And while I am an Ohio resident, I do have a connection here in Wichita. My aunt is a 30-year resident of the city and a retired drama professor at Wichita State University, so go Shockers. I am joined today by a few of my colleagues from PREP, as we are known, as well as our joint venture partner, Industrial Realty Group, also known as IRG. We like our acronyms. IRG and PREP are national real estate development firms that collectively own more than 100 million square feet of property in more than 30 states. And while we own another property in nearby El Dorado, this is our first venture into Wichita. We are excited to be here. Our group is very well capitalized. We maintain investment grade credit, and we have redeveloped hundreds of Class C and Class D assets throughout the country, including large-scale auto plants, as well as many former retail properties, just like Town West. As retail projects like Town East and Bradley Fair have continued to succeed on the other side of town, I think you all know that this property has continued to decline over the last few years. As many of you know, this property has been in the news for all the wrong reasons, and we are looking forward to breathing new life into the site. We anticipate a total spend of more than $35 million on this redevelopment, which will take advantage of the current structure. We do not propose any type of demolition of the existing mall. We want to utilize the existing bones. And this is a speculative project. And as Mr. Cook said, this zone modification gives us the ultimate flexibility for the lease up of this project headed into the future. This will create a thriving mixed-use multi-tenant development that will spur job creation as well as economic development, not just for this property, but for the surrounding region. Our redevelopment plan will help cure the blight and vacancy that you currently see today at the mall, and will bring back strong daytime population to the area, which will obviously benefit a lot of the surrounding commercial businesses. We are actively working with the city manager, the mayor, and Councilman Dalton Glasscock on a public-private partnership that will hopefully allow us to begin work on the site later this spring. We are already working closely with multiple local Wichita contractors and brokers on the future of this project. We look forward to moving this project ahead and appreciate your time and consideration of the application. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Salata. Did I get that?
You did.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner Aldrich.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming to and speaking to us. Actually, I got a couple of questions. Do you plan on utilizing the entrance off of Tracy or the partial 7? It'd be up on the north.
Yes, the entrance
northeast.
to the actual property, yes, the driveways, all
Yes,
the
sir.
access drives, we plan on maintaining all of those, yes.
Okay. Would you have any objections if we required a masonry wall for a buffer between the school and the church along partial 11, partial 1? And since you're going to be utilizing that entrance over there off of Tracy to also include partial 7?
We'd like to understand what that wall would look like. We'd be open to considering it. We do have an aggressive landscaping plan that would actually probably improve upon what Brad touched on, which was approved 20 plus years ago. So I think we'd be open to considering that if we understood the size and the magnitude of that wall. I do think a lot of the vehicular traffic here is actually going to be automobiles. So I don't want you to think, when you hear business park, I don't want you to think heavy industry. The types of uses that we're going to target here will be advanced manufacturing, light manufacturing, flex users, research and development, potentially medical. There will be an office component to each of these tenants' spaces. So I think the majority of the traffic here is actually going to be vehicular traffic and not truck traffic, if that's your concern.
Okay, so you're not going to be looking at doing a freight terminal there?
Freight terminal is not in our plans. I know that's part of the zoning, but that's not part of our plans.
Okay, what my concerns are, again, is the current buffing that's there, or landscaping or lack of, and again, it goes back to 79. So that's pretty outdated right there. And if this was to be developed now, would probably have to require that masonry wall. So I'm just looking for a buffer and a safety buffer between the school at Christ the King and the development.
Understood. I think if we could accomplish the same thing through some significant landscaping, it may be a saved cost for the project, which will allow us to obviously put more capital into the building itself. But we're open to a buffer at that area, whether it be masonry or landscaping.
Philip, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I confirmed with legal, because they do not own parcel 7, we can't require them to put a structure or a masonry wall on property that they do not own, nor is parcel 7 part of the application.
Okay, I didn't know who the ownership was. That's why I asked as far.
Yeah,
as
my
if they were
understanding
gonna
is that you do.
use that for access.
My understanding is you guys do not own parcel 7, which is JCPenney.
We do not.
That is correct.
But you're going to utilize the entrance, the ingress. and
Yeah,
egress.
there's an existing agreement in place for all of the property owners within the mall to share access, parking, utilities.
Cross-lot access, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Mader?
On this property, it's hard to tell where the parking is and everything. Will there now, with change of zoning, be excess parking? And if there's excess parking, do we see additional construction? And after that, will the architectural controls match everything that's there today?
Yeah, so as you know, Commissioner, these retail malls were originally designed to accommodate 4 to 5 spots per 1,000 square feet developed, which you really only need on Black Friday anymore, and especially not at this mall, which wasn't actually open on Black Friday. But we will have excess parking here, which ultimately we would love to come, obviously we have to activate the mall itself first, but I think as we populate the mall, I think there will be opportunities for additional development on the periphery of this property. That could be retail, that could be food and beverage. We've seen in other projects throughout the country where we've performed these types of projects, once you activate the donut hole, so to speak, the peripheral land becomes more valuable and becomes more attractive to those types of users. So we would obviously come back to this body if we were going to contemplate doing anything in the future on the peripheral. But I do believe that will be an opportunity in the future.
Commissioner Miles?
So I just want to clarify, is there any chance you will do vehicle or equipment storage on this property?
We could. Some of the users that we would target may have that as part of their operations, but we would comply with the setbacks and the screening that would be required if that were the case.
And that is one of the conditions on item 2, staff recommendation for outdoor storage, that it has to be set back further. And then also related to Commissioner Aldrich's concern about some of the buffer and the screening, item 3 was all landscape that is dying or has been removed will be replaced. And you're comfortable with those conditions as well?
We are.
Okay. Any
Like I
other?
said, our plan would be to upgrade even the dead stuff.
Right. Well, that's easy to do if
All
it's
right.
dead, right?
There's a lot of it.
Any other questions for the commission? Okay, seeing none, stand by. We're going to take public comment now. If there's anyone from the public who would wish to speak on this item, please come forward. You will have 3 minutes. Please give us your name and address for the record.
My name's Patricia Harrington. My address is 235 South Young Street, which is the 3rd house north of Maple, across west side of Young. It's just north of Christ the King. My concern is increased traffic, increased noise, and what will this do to my property value?
Okay.
Do I get an answer or I've never done this before.
Right, and again, I don't think that we can answer those questions for you. We listen to your questions and concerns, and if there is something that staff can support with it, that's what we'll do. But right now, we want to take your questions.
Do get an answer before you vote?
Well, we'll see what staff has to say, and once we hear all the questions, then we can feed back and we'll bring it back to the board. And the applicant can also address your question. So they'll have a chance to rebut after all of the public comments are finished.
I will.
They will.
They will.
Right.
Will I have a chance to ask further questions?
No.
Oh, I better think. Will there be any effort to make Kellogg more accessible so that Maple isn't overrun? Because that's my main concern, one of my main concerns.
Gotcha. Okay,
Okay, that's all I can think of.
thank you. We'll try to get your questions answered. Next question, next speaker, please.
Patricia Otten, 200 South Doris Street. We've lived there for almost 50 years. And our biggest concern is the trash that we currently get from down west. And I mean, we get the trash blown down the street. We're the last street before you go,
Ma'am?
before you go under the bridge. Elder's the other
Ma'am,
one.
yeah, stay focused on the microphone so we
Okay.
can hear you.
And our big concern is the traffic, the trash. We have a lot of homeless people in this area already. And we're just very concerned about it. And when Kellogg gets blocked by a traffic accident, Maple's the big deal. And it's hard now to come out on Elder going east. It's hard to come out on Doris going east. So it would require us to go west all the time. And I'd like to see another light put up down there at that entrance into Town West.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is David Sprague. I'm here representing the MCI. We're the call center at the Town West Mall. As of the 13th of March, we had no notification of this at all. I read this through the media. I've connected with our CEO as well, kind of filled him in on some stuff, but we've had no notification whatsoever that this was happening. We do own our space. So I believe, looking at the map, I believe it was parcel 11. Is that right? Where the old Sears?
Correct.
Okay. So how is this going to affect our building, our employees, our parking, noise? How many employees are we looking to add throughout the whole, facility there at Town West? I had some questions about storage, but those were answered, so thank you very much for answering those. But again, we had no idea that this was happening until I read about it on the web. So that is a concern of ours. Not a concern that this is happening. We appreciate the development, but we just are concerned with what's going to happen with our space since we own it, and we weren't notified of any of this. So,
Real quick, Mr. Sprague, I think I heard in your first sentence, you said you didn't know about it until March 13th. Was
Right.
that notification you received from staff or?
No, I read about it online. We received no notification in the mail. Our CEO had no idea till I let him know that any of this was happening.
Mr. Wadle.
Yes, we're checking the record, and so what happens, sir, is that the applicant is required to go to a title company and to get the addresses from the title company for who owns the different properties within the notification area. The property that you're referring to, I believe, has Town West Mall Realty Holdings, LLC, listed as the owner. And the address that we mailed it to is one that is located at a suite in Great Neck, New York.
No. We're Marlowe Companies Incorporated. Our home office is in Iowa. I don't have the address handy in front of me, but.
Does your parent company ever own that piece of land?
Yes, we own the old Sears building plus 6,000 square feet in the vacant area next door.
But that's carved out. It is not in parcel 10. That's that.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, like I said, on GIS, which is connected to the appraiser's office, it shows that that property is owned by Town West Mall Realty Holdings LLC. And again, that's what's reflected in the ownership list. So the applicant complied with the regulations, and the record shows that perhaps the ownership has never been updated for whatever reason, because I know that call center has been there for a while, but our records show that the owner on record was notified. It's just the record may be incorrect.
Mr. Sprague, do you know when Marlowe bought that property? Was that in 24?
No, it's been, let's see, I transferred out here to open the property in, this is 2025. So I've been here in Wichita since end of 2022 or 21. I've been here for 3.5 years.
I was
We
thinking,
opened in March of 22, so I guess 21 was when I arrived here. Purchase was made in 21.
okay. Were there any other questions you had? I
No,
got
sir.
your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Abby.
Mr. Chair, two issues. One, I'm not sure if we got the address of that public commenter. Two, I think, again, because they were within the notification area and staff has explained that they met their requirements, I would recommend making another finding on the record of substantial compliance.
Well, but are we comfortable with that, knowing that maybe it wasn't updated and I guess they did everything they're supposed to do, right?
The title company
Okay.
had it on their sheet, so according to the title company, that's who owns the property, whether that's correct or not.
Right.
Right, and according to the county records, the appraiser's website, county records show that Town West Realty Holdings owns the property. So the applicant did everything they were supposed to do. That property was included in the notification list. It's just a discrepancy on who actually owns it, which is not the applicant or the planning department's responsibility.
Got it. Got it.
Mr. Chair, I should add, I apologize, I should have phrased that differently. I would recommend that you make a finding one way or another on substantial compliance.
Okay. So,
I would make that motion.
okay.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Mr. Sprague, could you give us your address one more time for the record?
4600 West Kellogg Drive, Suite 200.
Suite 200. Thank you. And it's Marlowe Company? Is
Companies Incorporated.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is John Clark, and I'm the Director of Training for the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Apprenticeship Training of Kansas, also trustee of the fund. We're located at 4646 West Kellogg Drive, which is the old Toys R Us building. I do want to comment, the folks have said concern about the trash and the homeless. We moved there and completed our project in 2021, 2022, and we're also concerned about the trash and the homeless. They come through there all the time. At this point, I can see nothing but good things come into that area, and I believe that the increase in presence in that mall area would certainly help to improve the area as well as keep some of the homeless away. With that, we are not in opposition to the zoning changes. Thank you very much.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you over there.
Tyler Cooper, 353 North Mead, Wichita, Kansas, 67202. I'm the president of Boulevard Theaters. We've been in Town West for almost 3 years now. And we are very excited at the prospect of a new owner for Town West. Welcome the new owners. And we're very excited to be open on Black Friday. They have indicated that every day we're going to have power. That's what they told us. So it's on the record. It's on the record. But we're not opposed to the zoning change. We think any change is a good change. We just wanted to express our support for the change.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Sam Stewart, 2720 North Rushwood Court. Family and I has owned Superstar Sports since I was a little kid over at Town West. Been there for a very long time. Like you were saying, we're very excited also about the change. Anything's better than nothing. Just wanted to put on the record. There's still businesses over there. We're still open. People need to come out and support. And we really appreciate all the information. More information is better. Hopefully there'll be a lot of good press. And hopefully we can make Town West great again.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Next speaker. Going once, going twice. All right, we'll bring it back to the applicant agent for rebuttal. You'll have up to 2 minutes. answer what you can.
Yeah, thank you. So just not a rebuttal, but just a quick thing with traffic probably will increase, obviously, as there's more interest in going to this area. And that may not be a bad thing for the small businesses that are around there. Maybe not a great thing for the neighbors, but I believe that, as traffic increases, then work has to be done to those roads. So hopefully that they'll be working with the city and whatnot. And obviously, as we bring in development, the type of tenants that'll be at this location won't be throwing out a lot of trash. That'll be obviously cleaned up pretty well as there will be more invested into it. And typically with these type of developments, the trash and homeless, that sort of thing is not an issue once the development begins. I would, as far as Kellogg accessibility, that's something that city will have to look into, and hopefully, maybe with more growth out there, they may, because it's kind of difficult around there to get on Kellogg for sure. I wanted Chris to talk a little bit about MCI, if you don't mind, and how kind of that's taken place, just so you all know what that was or what happened there. So.
Quickly, though, I'd like to speak to the neighboring residents and tell you that you have our commitment to help clean up some of the things that you're experiencing in the neighborhoods to the north. We will have a full-time maintenance staff, not just for the interior of the mall any longer, but a team that will maintain the exterior of this building, which would include any trash. We'll also have full-time security here, which should hopefully then clean up the homeless. And I actually think you'll see less truck traffic at this site than you did when the mall was fully thriving. If you think about a mall at its peak, you have 75 to 100 tenants at once. There's deliveries coming in every day. We're going to have deliveries for these tenants maybe once or twice a day. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the traffic. To the gentleman from MCI.
I'm going to extend you for 1 minute.
Okay.
So
thank you. We did reach out to, I don't know if it's your CEO or somebody at the contact. You own a condo unit within the Sears building, which is, I think, why there was a discrepancy in the ownership. So our entity now owns the parcel itself, which is the legal owner of the land. And the Sears is split into 3 condo units, of which you guys own unit number 2. We don't plan on disturbing your operations. We're excited you're there. We think you're a perfect tenant, perfect user for what we want to do. Would love to talk to you after the meeting as well and connect to make sure we're on the same page. But we do, coming in out of state, it's really important for us to become ingrained here in the community, and that includes both with the residents and with the local businesses. Yep.
thank you. Just one real quick question. Do you have any kind of timeline or ETA when we might be able to start? If everything gets approved and everything's successful the way you see it, when could maybe we could start to see some improvements out there?
Great question. I wish the mayor and the city manager were here to answer that on the public-private partnership side. I think as soon as we get that buttoned up, which we're close, we've made great progress on it. Our goal is to have activity out here hopefully later this spring. So this isn't sit on it. We're not very patient developers, so we'd like to get after it as soon as we can. I would think May is a good timeline.
Appreciate that. Thank you. It looks like we have another question for you. Commissioner Aldrich.
Yep. Yes, sir. I don't think I'm going to wind up getting the masonry wall that I was hoping for. But I do have a request. Would you work with the diocese and Christ the King to get their input on the landscaping?
Absolutely.
Okay,
You're tugging on my Roman Catholic roots there, Commissioner. I'm a Notre Dame grad, so we'll be happy to talk to the church.
Thank you.
Got it.
Any other questions for the applicants and agent? Seeing none, thank you. Hope you enjoy your visit to Wichita. Bring it back to the board for conversation, action. Commissioner McKay.
I make a motion that we approve, subject to the staff comment.
Second.
Gladly do so.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner McKay with a second from Commissioner Miles. And that's approval with the staff conditions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. That was our last item. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.